What a delightful morning song. That was incredibly invigorating. Good morning and welcome to the White Bear Unitarian Universalist Church. We are delighted to have you here today, both in those spaces at home, attending virtually, and here. It is good to be together, a community of youth, adults, and children sharing the values of courage, reverence, and compassion. I'm Claire Schleicher, and I'm a member of our board directors, and I use the she, her pronouns. We offer a special welcome to our newcomers today. We invite you to fill out a guest card at the Welcome Center or in the chat box. If you have a joy or sorrow that you would like to share in the meditation, please add it to the meditation bowl or in the chat box before the opening hymn. Please make sure to gain consent before you put someone's full name in the bowl. If you are accompanied by children today, we warmly welcome your whole family. We invite you to explore our Soul Work Center by the meditation bowl, right over here, where you can find different activities designed to help people of all ages actively engage with today's worship service. A note about today's service. We're inviting everyone to hold a sacred silence after today's featured musical piece, just before the sermon. Please check out a video Reverend Roger and Amy Peterson made exploring silence and noise in our worship services. A link is in this week's e-news. For those online, our cyber social hour starts 5 minutes after the postlude. Starting today, we have a big change for the in-person social hour experience. In the social hall, you can find tables about some of our upcoming events, enjoy mingling and informal conversation. And I heard a rumor that there may be cookies to accompany the coffee and tea. We hope that everyone here will check it out. If you're looking for a short, structured time of connection and community, our formalized small group conversations are still happening. Please grab your coffee and/or cookies, and then find Reverend Jack in the atrium. He'll be there holding up a sign that says, Conversation Circles. Once a small group has been gathered, you'll head down to the alcove for a 20-minute conversations. The staff have heard from some of you that you want to know more about what's happening in the congregation. The main way to do that is to read the e-news. Scan the QR code on the back of the order of service to read more of this week's edition. And now, a special announcement from the search committee.
Good morning. My name's Clay, and I use the he and him pronouns. And I'm a member of your search committee, and the search process is a long journey. We started this journey this summer, and the goal is to select a new minister this coming spring, with that new minister starting next fall. So one of the very first steps we have to figure out is, on this journey, where are we going as a congregation, and who are we? So to do that, we need your feedback. I was thinking about, what is it we need in a new minister, and where are we going on this journey? And I thought, well, the minister must be the driver's seat, the steering wheel. I thought, no, that's not right. That's not right. But maybe the minister is the engine that powers us, that gives us the energy. Now, I'm an engineer, in case you didn't recognize any of those. But I thought, that's not right either. It's the spark plug, that inspiration that helps us see where we need to go. I thought, that's not right either. I thought briefly a windshield to keep the bugs out of my face, but no, that's not it either. It's motor oil. That's what the new minister is. The minister is there to keep us lubricated and moving smoothly. So that's my idea, and that's probably Well, in fact, our group said, Clay, we need to hear from everyone else because... So we want to hear from you, and we have two primary ways you can share your thoughts with us. First, we have the congregational survey. We've got over 270 folks who've responded. We've got a couple more days left of that. We're going to close it this Tuesday. So if you haven't done it already, we want to hear from everyone, and that includes our newer members, our younger members, everybody. We want to hear from you. So take that survey. It takes about 10 minutes. Unless you're a UU person, it's going to take a half hour. But take that survey. Also, we have the cottage meetings, which are our great opportunity to sit down as a group with members, a little more intimate. We have one more meeting today at 12:30, right after the service here. There will be snacks. So please stick around if you have time and you haven't already attended. We'd love to have you join us. It's about an hour-and-a-half meeting. And then the final cottage meeting will be Wednesday this week at 6:30, and snacks will be provided. So please participate. Please take that survey, and bring your motor oil. Thank you.
And finally, a grateful thanks to all of you who came to the Land Stewardship Fall Workday last weekend. Your hard work to keep our grounds healthy and beautiful is much appreciated. Welcome to our church, where together we grow our souls and serve the world in love.
Come in. Come into this place which we make holy by our presence. Come in with all your vulnerabilities and strengths, your fears and anxieties, your loves and hopes. For here you need not hide, nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this place where we can touch and be touched, heal and be healed, forgive and be forgiven. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, the compassionate is expected. Come into this place. Together, we make it a holy place. I'm Reverend Roger, and my pronouns are he, him.
Good morning. My name is Louis McLaughlin, and my pronouns are he, him. I went to college in New Orleans, and in my second year, the New Orleans Saints won the Super Bowl. Greatly due to this, I was for several seasons thereafter an extremely devoted fan. Sunday mornings, I love to watch ESPN or Fox's or CBS's morning coverage that previewed the day's NFL games as well as showed the highlights from the last week, usually of spectacular plays. But often I remember commentators showing a clip of a very common mistake. Any football fan will recognize it. The quarterback throws the ball, a perfect throw, to a waiting receiver who happens to be likewise in the perfect position and with all the time and space in the world. The receiver starts to catch the ball, then, unbelievably, just as he turns, he drops it. Each time, the commentators knowingly would say that the receiver simply started running before he caught the ball. started running before he caught the ball. Even as a college kid, I knew what they meant. He had stopped thinking about the catching too soon and started thinking about the running. His mind had raced ahead of his body. And because of this mind-body disconnect, the receiver failed to stay put long enough to do something he had done 1,000 times. This was actually my first introduction to mindfulness. Simply defined, mindfulness is bringing your mind wherever it has happened to run off to, back to where your body is. The more you practice it, the more your mind stays put. And when it does run off, the easier and quicker you get at bringing it back. Some psychologists call this mental mode slow brain, which makes it sound like the world will race by should you indulge in it. Well, college-aged me got the sense that mindfulness was just that, something people might do when they need to chill out, to recenter, to wind down, or to de-stress. It's kind of like taking a break, treating yourself, something for when you have time on your hands, and nothing really urgent that needs doing, nothing urgent like playing in an NFL football game. Lately, I've been thinking that mindfulness is actually something all athletes have to access every time they compete, and that the great ones are masters of being present in the moment. To summarize, even in sports of such speed where quick change and nimble reactivity seem to be all that's going on, there's remarkable power in mentally staying put. As we light the chalice today, may we too celebrate the power of staying put to catch the beauty of this moment before we mentally run off to the next one.
I am Reverend Sarah. I use she, her pronouns. Join me in our opening words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please join me by rising in body or spirit to sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. It's in the hardback hymnal, and the words are also on the screen.
We're blessed this morning to have two hymns that are four-part. So if you can find a part and want to go beyond the melody, be bold, and let's harmonize.
Good morning. My name is Amy, and my pronouns are she, her. And this morning's story can be found in an anthology called Katha Sagar, Ocean of Stories, Hindu Wisdom for Every Age by Sarah Conover and Abhi Janamanchi. It's called The Well Digger. Once a man in a small village set out to dig a well on his land. After finding a suitable spot, he cheerfully set about his task. Although he toiled for hours and hours, digging a hole as deep as the height of his hut, he found not a trace of water. Tired and hot, he decided to relax for a while under the shade of a nearby tree. As he was resting, a neighbor came along. "What have you been up to, my friend?" he asked. "Digging a well," replied the man. "I have been digging and digging since morning, but there is no sign of water." "Oh, how I wish I would have passed this way earlier," said the neighbor. "I would have told you exactly where to dig. Anyway, come with me. I'll help you find the perfect spot." So saying, the neighbor led the man to a different place, assuring him that he would strike water in just a few hours. The well digger cheerfully set about his task yet again. Hours later, he had dug a hole 20 feet deep with no results, and another neighbor came along. "Digging a well, are you?" said the helpful, cheerful neighbor. And then he got the man to follow him to another place. The neighbor pointed, "This is it. Dig here, and soon you'll have water gushing out in torrents." And so the man started to dig yet again. He dug and dug and dug and dug some more, only stopping when night fell. And this time the hole was over 30 feet deep and still not a drop of water. Fed up, he muttered, 30 feet and the only water gushing out in torrents is my sweat. I am sick of digging. As he gathered his tools to go home, a friend came by and heard the whole story. "You can imagine my frustration," said the exhausted well digger. "I have dug 60 feet altogether in 3 different locations." 60 feet, his friend exclaimed. "If you had dug a 60-foot hole in one place, surely you would have struck water by now." Despondent, the man made his way slowly home. "My friend is right," he muttered to himself. "I will stick to one spot tomorrow, no matter what anyone may say." I'm going to invite you to rise in body or spirit and help us sing 1057 in your teal hymnal, "Go Lift It Up." We're going to sing our children and youth who are registered for our Sunday morning circles on their way.
Join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Find a comfortable place for your body, giving yourself what you need to be present in this moment. If it is safe for you to do so, take in your surroundings. What do you notice? Notice a sight, a sound, a smell, a feeling. Engage your senses. Keep breathing normally as you explore the present moment. It will take 2 minutes for this practice. Gently bring yourself back into this community. We gather in community each week to hold each other in our struggles, in our dreams. We hold those who are struggling with grief, with illness, with loss. We hold those who have joys and celebrations. This morning we hold these members of our community. Joan McIntosh, as her sister faces life-threatening consequences of addiction in mind, body, and spirit. Russell Diedrich, who had a pulmonary embolism yesterday and is resting in the hospital with a good chance of full recovery. We hold someone coming off of a manic episode. And we offer all mercies and grace that they watch over our children long after we are gone and give them more than a few moments of happiness. I invite you now to speak into the embrace of this community the names of your beloved so that we may hold them with you. We hold them in love. Amen.
Several times a month, our offering goes out the door to organizations that we believe in. Today, the offering will stay with us to support this organization we believe in. Your offering today will support the important work of this congregation. Thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we live together.
Our reading this morning is Home by Marjorie Lofty, and it's based on this moment, this news story she read with the quote, "Mysterious lonely apple tree on an uninhabited Hebridean island baffles scientists." This, I understand, the instinct to cling at any cost to the place you are rooted, to see another season through, though the other seeds elsewhere, your own young move with tides and summer squalls. Even in this sedentary act, you push the limit. Winter becomes summer, becomes winter, and you are steadfast on your crag, on your outcrop. You bear fruit for yourself. There is purity in solitude. No one hears your language, the shape of your limbs against the darkening sky. You question the need to grow against the wind. Despite what they say, there's no mystery in simply holding on. But what is home, if not the choice, over and over again, to stay?
the Unitarian Universalist Association's ministerial search process was really different when I embarked on my first search in 1990 than it is today. Rather than ministers choosing what congregations they might be interested in having their names sent there, back in those days, there was this guy who sat in an office in Boston at UUA headquarters and decided which maybe 5 congregations would be a good match for you. Then he would snail mail the list of ministers that he thought would be a good match to the search committees, and he'd snail mail the ministers, here's the places that you could go. Now, you could ask this guy to send your name somewhere else if he didn't have it on your list, which he would do, and he'd note, I don't think this is a good match. Pretty much the kiss of death. So, for whatever reason, this guy sitting in that office in Boston decided that the congregation in Appleton, Wisconsin, and several others would be a good match for me, but not White Bear UU Church, though it also was searching for a minister and was impossibly similar to Appleton. So these two congregations were founded in the same year. They were lay-led in their origin. They were conducting, for the first time, a settled search for a full-time minister. They had precisely 105 members each, and they were in the upper Midwest, which is what I asked for. How could this guy think I was a good fit in Appleton, but not White Bear? Well, just as well for you, and for Gail Seavey, who became your minister in 1990, because she was a great match, and the guy in Boston knew that. Well, so the guy in Boston did send my name to the church in Provincetown at the end of Cape Cod in Massachusetts. That church, in a heavily gay community in the middle of the AIDS crisis, had mushroomed during that crisis from 50 members to 600 members. And literally dozens of their members died. It was an amazing story, and at the center of it was this powerful, charismatic minister, an out lesbian, who was then swept away by a flagship church in Boston. So anyway, only Provincetown and Appleton search committees even wanted to have a preliminary phone call with me. Although beyond categorical thinking was around at that time, that's something that some of you participated in here and we had a service about a few weeks ago. My hunch is that many search committees looked at my age, which then was 26, and that I was pretty raw, and were not interested even in a phone conversation. Years later, I found out that that's actually exactly what happened in Appleton. I was put on the "we're not interested" list, and then one of the oldest members on the committee said, wait a minute, I think there might be more to this guy. Let's take another look. Well, anyway, the phone interviews went well enough with Appleton and with the Provincetown committees that I was asked to pre-candidate at each. That means I was like one of 2 or 3 finalists who was invited to visit. And I was the third of 3 to visit Provincetown, and within a few days, that search committee decided, we don't want any of these people. So I had all my eggs in one basket. My wife, Amy, was expecting a baby. We really needed health insurance. And we didn't know anything really about Appleton. I remember flying into Appleton for this weekend of interviews and thinking, oh my God, it's flat. Someone in the Appleton search committee during that weekend asked me how long I thought I might stay. I would commit to 5 years, I said, thinking inside, and not anything more than that. I saw it as a stepping stone, that it would be a stepping stone to something bigger and better. Well, they picked me. That's how I ended up in Appleton, Wisconsin. I had nowhere else to go. My wife and I, though, we stayed put there for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. We left just a few months short of 25 years. My favorite moment in all the farewell activities when I was leaving was a cabaret talent show that was emceed by a member who was channeling Stephen Colbert's conservative talk host. And he interviewed me, and his lead question was, "So what does it feel like, Roger, to be a quitter?" Well, like the crabapple tree on that lone Hebridean island off Scotland, Amy and I made the choice to stay in Appleton day after day. We made the choice again and again during those 25 years. A few times we actually looked into leaving, but each time decided to stay. You see, the place had captured us. The cornfields and dairy farms on the edge of town in any direction, the beckoning north woods so nearby, the little cheese factory we found about a half hour outside of town, the parks, the web of friends, good schools for our kids, even the Packers, and sacred Lambeau Field, only a half hour away. Where else could I live where I knew that the visiting NFL teams stayed in Appleton the night before, and when that caravan was going out of town with buses, police escorted, that in those buses would be the hated Vikings, and I could roll down my car window and give a salute to the Vikings as they went by. Well, at least I gave a thumb, right? Anyway, of course, we were fortunate. We were lucky to be able to stay there that long. The question I later realized I should have asked the search committee was, can you really afford full-time ministry for more than a year? They luckily could, but just barely. Our parents in Michigan didn't have the kind of health issues that needed us to move back. My wife Amy found really meaningful work in Appleton. It was a good place for our kids to grow up. And like here, that congregation in Appleton grew and grew. It grew into a mid-sized church and a large congregation, and it never was boring because it was always changing. Last week, Reverend Sarah talked about developing the courage to take a leap into a new life somewhere else. And there's a lot to be said for that. Actually, ultimately, Amy and I decided to leave St. Louis after those 25 years, or leave Appleton after the 25 years and move to St. Louis, which, although Midwestern, is completely unlike any other Midwestern city. Then when Amy was ready to leave the work there, we took an even bigger leap into the itinerant life of an interim minister, where we're just not somewhere for 25 years, but a place for 1 year or 2 years. We are now experiencing the gift of exploring a new place, not the Vikings, sorry folks, but as I shared a few months ago, the remarkable 10,000 lakes here, well, at least a few of them. How wonderful it was and unexpected last winter when suddenly this dog park mysteriously appeared that was 4 minutes walk from our house. Yeah, frozen White Bear Lake. But still, there is something spiritually powerful about being in one place for a long stretch, to digging that deep well in that one place. Last week's service was about wings that set us free. This week, it's about roots that hold us close. If staying put is an option, then I think it does take courage to choose that option. Oftentimes, there are more exciting adventures elsewhere. Oftentimes, greener pastures beckon. But the payoff when you stay in a place, for maybe a long period, is that you really get to know the place deeply. You get to know its rhythm, its history, the lessons that it has for you, even a few of its mysteries. So Henry David Thoreau on Walden Pond, Annie Dillard at Tinker Creek, they both sat and walked and meditated in those places for a long time, and they let the complexities of the place sink in. In his beautiful book, Staying Put, Making a Home in a Restless World, Scott Russell Sanders writes this: It has taken me half a lifetime of searching to realize that the likeliest path to the ultimate ground leads through my local ground. I mean the land itself, with its creeks and rivers, its weather, seasons, stone outcroppings, and all the plants and animals that share it. I cannot have a spiritual center without having a geographical one, he concludes. I cannot live a grounded life without being grounded in a place. So staying in Appleton for me helped ground me, helped give me a geographic center, and that then in turn helped me get a spiritual center. For a while during my time there, I would go to a nature preserve on the edge of the city, and I would take the same hike several times a week, month after month after month. I watched the seasons come and go. I saw the bigger narrative in that place of big trees falling and wondered what that was about. I saw deer and how the color of the deer changed through the seasons. I watched dormant buds in the winter that would then blossom, become leaves, green leaves, and then ultimately become a beautiful color and wither and fall. I watched snow come and go. In the spring, I smelled the aptly named skunk cabbage. Day to day, it was hard to see those changes going on. I'd look for just the tiniest change, and then I'd try to step back and take the bigger changes that were happening not over days, but over months. And in all that, maybe the most important thing is I thought about myself. I thought about my life as these days and weeks and months went by. I paid attention to what was happening in this little world around me and within. It was monotonous and thrilling, and it taught me a ton about the world and myself. And then I stopped. I think that I got busy. Probably really wasn't any busier, but I didn't make it a priority. Annie Dillard says, beauty and grace are performed whether or not we will or we sense them. The least we can do is try to be there. So I stopped trying to be there. But still, something sunk in. Scott Russell Sanders talks about this something being reverence, respectful waiting, a deep attentiveness to forces much greater than ourselves. It feels like that captured that experience in the residue that still stays with me today. Reverence, a respectful waiting, a deep attentiveness to forces much greater than my own. So when I think about this book, A Pilgrim at Tinker Creek, which is one of my favorites, I just think, what a brilliant title. Usually when we hear about being a pilgrim, we picture someone going far away to find something deep, like a Hindu making that pilgrimage to the sacred Ganges River and bathing in it, or a Muslim doing the once-in-a-lifetime, participating in the Hajj once in a lifetime. We think about the pilgrims who left persecution in Britain to create a new life in the New World, and I have to say, in the process, these pilgrims brought with them, unfortunately, the same bigotry and persecution which they fled, and used that to commit genocide against the indigenous people and also attack the other settlers who didn't share their religion. But all of these pilgrims of different types and different impacts, all of them traveled far in search of something deep. But Annie Dillard's book, she doesn't travel at all. She goes out her house and goes around Tinker Creek, just like Thoreau went outside that cabin and there was Walden Pond. And maybe the point of that is that we actually can be on a pilgrimage anywhere we are. Whether we're in a place for a long time or a short time, we learn, we grow, we age, we struggle, we make mistakes, we experience joy. Sometimes this happens in the same place, sometimes in many different places. Annie Dillard's Living at Tinker Creek and my sojourn in Appleton were both pilgrimages in place. So maybe all this boils down to paying attention regardless of whether our pilgrimage in life takes us near or far. Maybe, as Lewis suggested in the chalice lighting, it's about being present in the moment. Whether that moment is the same moment we were a moment ago, the same moment, the same place we were 10 years ago, or it's a brand new place. Wherever we are, may each of us find ways to stay present in the moment. And wherever we are, whether we've been there a long time or not, may we recognize that that ground we are on is sacred, and it's beautiful, and it's complete. May it be so. Our closing hymn today is number 159 in the gray hymnal. And this is a beautiful, beautiful piece about the sacredness of wherever we are, as well as lands far away. Please join in body or in spirit in 159. The closing words are a variation on the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the wings to set me free when it's time to fly, and roots to hold me close when it's time to be rooted, and may I have the wisdom to know when it's time to fly and when it's time to be rooted. May you go in peace.